Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rashida. I'm the Event and Membership Program Manager here at Santa Clara County Medical Association. Welcome to our third Elevating Your Medical Practice webinar of this year. Today's topic is personal branding for physicians, and our presenter is Vanessa Ericarte. Vanessa is one of the top marketing consultants in Northern California with more than 2 decades of experience helping businesses reach their growth goals. As the CEO of Marketing Simplified, she has worked with businesses in the service, consulting, construction, real estate, hospitality, and retail industries, and for nonprofit groups ranging from associations to academic divisions within universities. Her company was recognized as Davis Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year in 2020. Vanessa teaches strategic branding, digital marketing, and personal branding at the University of California at Davis Graduate School of Management. Her personal branding class is the only MBA level class of its kind in the nation. In 2022, she was recognized as Teacher of the Year. So please, thank you, Vanessa, for joining us today. It's all yours.
Thank you very much. I did not write my own bio. Oh, I don't like self-promotion. But thank you very much for that kind introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here today talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. There are so many people out in the world that deserve to get their message out. And my promise to you, when people hear personal branding, I tend to notice that at least my MBA students kind of cringe, because what it seems to have become is this perception that it's about brushing your teeth live or putting on makeup live on Instagram or TikTok and trying to sell things and being an influencer, trading airtime for money, right? And that, like I said, that's what it seems to have become. But I am on a mission to change the perception back to the thought leadership that I feel personal branding is. The internet is for everybody, and I really think there is a lot of value in sharing ideas, and we can only have that value on the internet if people are willing to share. So I'm, again, very happy to be here today in front of a group of people who I know have a lot of great ideas to share. And one thing that I try to do is I teach personal branding from a service approach. So if you teach someone something, you naturally show your value. So it's not so much about your own brand, it's about what other people can learn from you, because brands, even the biggest corporate brands, are designed to have a relationship with the customer. They're designed to help the customer so that the customer comes and says, oh, I have these aspirations. I think I need to buy from you, or I think I need to listen to you. And personal brands are no different. It's just gotten muddied along the way. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. And first, I'll give you a quick little video to start us off and have some inspiration, and then I will jump in. So here we go. Okay, oops. And let me make sure, sorry. I'm going to do a new share and make sure I've optimized for video. I always forget that step. You would think, how long we've been doing Zoom, that I wouldn't. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we will start off by watching a fun little video. All right, so can anybody type in the chat, what is Liquid Death? Does anybody know what it is now that you've seen this commercial? What are they advertising here? So Liquid Death is a brand of water. And Liquid Death was born out of the founder having an epiphany when he was at a festival. He started refilling his energy drink cans with water. And he said, wow, if I made canned water, it would help the environment. And then he discovered that he thought the water actually had a crisper taste and a cooler temperature in the can when it was chilled. And then he decided to call it Liquid Death, right? As kind of a making fun of energy drinks, right? And making it intriguing. And then kids started noticing this, and it became my kids, whenever it shows up on our doorstep, my kids say, oh, Mom, you bought the lunchbox water. Kids loved drinking it and showing it off because it looked like beer. So they could show it to their friends and feel all cool. And really, his main mission, again, was helping the environment, right? But if he can make water interesting, then we can make anything interesting, right? And I would argue that we're all more interesting than water. And what he did was he just used a counterintuitive point of view, right? He said water could be a great vehicle to kill our plastic usage. And not only will it help the environment, but it might even make water taste a little different. Now, water is water. So whenever I bring this into my branding class and I have students taste Crystal Geyser and Liquid Death in glasses after I pour it out in a blind taste test, people can't really differentiate it. But when I, before that, have them taste it in the Liquid Death can and in the Crystal Geyser bottle, they say similar things to what you just said, right? Or to what I just said. They say it tastes crisper, cooler, etc. Right? And so branding is very powerful, and how we position things is very powerful. And so you have this knowledge that is a lot more interesting than water. And today we're going to talk about how we position that in a way that cuts through the noise online. So thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Oops, it's going to start playing again. Okay. I was already introduced, so I have a self-introduction. Basically, I've been in the marketing field for 20 years. I've had my own consulting firm for 10, and I really do love teaching, training, and helping others develop their brands. That is my true passion in this last part of my career. So, if you were guaranteed success, if you could really be looked to as an expert in something, what would you raise awareness about, teach lay people about, or advise other colleagues about? Like I said earlier, being visible and valuable for your knowledge is so different than this common influencer type persona. And so we're going to explore what can we do online minimally that doesn't take very long, because we all have day jobs and we're busy, to show our value online so that we can get a bit of a credibility boost, so that we can create a pull marketing effect for ourselves or our practices. Pull marketing is you're top of mind when anybody wants you, right? So push marketing is we have to show up when people need us, where people need us, with the right offer. Pull marketing is we're top of mind when person has the need. So I have a favorite pair of running shoes, and whenever my running shoes start to get worn out on the tread, I go exactly to that brand. That brand has achieved pull marketing with me. And so thought leadership can really help achieve pull marketing for us so that we don't have to chase leads. That's one thing I never wanted to do when I became a business owner. I never wanted to chase leads. I never wanted to be in that business of cold calling, things like that. And so what I started doing was sharing value online. And I would say that my personal brand actually developed on accident because I started mixing some personal things in between. I used to be the type of person that business and personal side was completely different. And I used to try hard to keep it that way. In fact, when my son was born, I was building my business. And so I didn't take maternity leave. I showed up to an 8 a.m. meeting on day 5 of him being a newborn. And the client asked, how's your son? I'm fine. Okay. Tell me a little more about him. Okay. He's named Jack. Let's move on. Right. And eventually the client made a joke. She goes, do you even like your son? And I'm like, oh God, I love my son. But I thought, oh, being a mom makes me look weaker to these clients, right? When in reality, it makes you more relatable. And a few years after, I had my son, my daughter, who was a couple years older than him, was actually diagnosed with a life-threatening condition. And that's when I kind of couldn't really keep everything separate anymore. I would share some things because I wanted to help her, to help explain what was going on with her as she was going through treatment for this. And I realized not only did it not hurt the professional side of me, it made me more relatable. So today we're going to talk about marrying that personal and professional side to really amplify your personal brand. And I call it service first personal branding. So top of industry thought leadership, no one really needs help with that who is in that space. Malcolm Gladwell does not need to know how to become a better thought leader. All of your pundits that are on the Today Show or whatnot, these correspondents that specialize in things, they're already there. And then of course, influencers are those folks that, again, are trading money for posts. So today we're going to look at the in-between. We're going to take that expert knowledge that these top of industry thought leaders have and that you have, and then we're going to take that personal appeal of the influencer and we're going to marry them together to build a service-first personal brand, meaning you get noticed by helping others and providing that value online. And my hope for you is that you don't have to worry about finding leads for your practice. You don't have to hire every search engine optimization firm in the world. You don't have to hire outbound marketing firms. That you can, with your own value, your own knowledge, be attracting people naturally online. You might even have some accidental things happen. You might become a pundit or some kind of industry expert and create more answers in your field. You might be able to pursue a secret dream. I say this a lot to my MBA students. People come to the MBA program for a promotion, but everyone has a secret dream. You may even save a life by sharing some public knowledge. And when I talk to PhD researchers and faculty at UC Davis, we always talk about sharing to advance research quicker as well. So again, if we all shared a little bit of our specialized knowledge, what could we do to change the world? Okay. And I want you to think about the brand you have at the moment. So one major objection I get from students is, well, eventually when I get this one more certification, or eventually when I get this degree, or eventually when I do this one more thing, or have this one more case that I've solved, then I'll be ready to brag about myself, right? That's the essential objection that I get. And what I tell people is Coca-Cola started as a tonic. There was no Coke Zero, Diet Coke, or vitamin water when Coca-Cola launched. And Coca-Cola grew and changed as the brand grew and changed. Brands are these kind of living being things because, again, they're the point of relationship that customers can have with the brand. So we as humans, as personal brands, we're also going to grow and change, and we can naturally change the brand with it. The key is to start exactly where we're at with what we've done and the knowledge we have. And in this particular group, for you, I'm sure that that's not as ominous as a task as it is for some of my MBA students, but I wanted to call it out because it is the biggest objection I get. And so what I tell people to think about at the beginning of my workshop is, if only I had whatever, fill in the blank there, I could then, what could you do for people, right? And then we're going to cross off that belief that we have to have something or do something before we launch our brand. And we're going to take that second blank because that is the start of our brand, what you want to do for people. And if it's a bridge too far, if you still have something you need to do first before you start talking about it, what can you do on your way? Okay. What can you launch right now that helps you get where you want to go? Now, if you're not promoting your personal brand online, others are promoting it for you. We spend 8 hours a day online, emailing, texting, browsing, or on social media on average in the United States. So if your screen time says that, then you don't have to feel guilty anymore. That is just the reality. If we sleep and go to the bathroom, that means a lot of the times, most of our day can be spent online. And so we really need to pay attention to how we show up online. Many of us thought about how we were going to show up in person today. what patients we wanted to see, what meetings we were going to go to, etc. But we may not have thought, what are we going to post online today to help someone? What are we going to post online today to talk a little bit about what's going on in our practice? We usually don't plan those things in advance as people, as personal brands. So could you imagine the potential to elevate your practice if you did something that 99.999% of people don't do on the internet in a very minimal way? So another thing online that I really like is today I'm actually giving this presentation and I'm giving it to you on a webinar. And it's going to have more of a shelf life because it's going to be posted on a website. And so you're going to be able to refer back to it. That's a really great thing about the internet. Because if I were in person, you would remember about 10% of this if I did a good enough job and was interesting enough for you. And then you would forget the rest and the shelf life would be gone. And so when we can show up online in a valuable way, those clicks and those revisits mean quite a bit to what we say. And so eventually it's not just a linear approach, it's more exponential to the attention that we get online for the value that we're sharing. I want to tell you a story and I want to talk to you about Dr. Lisa Hornick and where I want you to get by the end of this workshop. So Dr. Lisa Hornick is a former student of mine, and she asks the question, would you treat diabetes with eye drops? Would you treat autoimmune disorders with eye drops? Would you treat early stage cancer with eye drops? Lisa Hornick herself has suffered from dry eye. She's an optometrist. And she was starting to get really frustrated with day in, day out, handing eye drops to people with dry eye and sending them on their merry way, when really that wasn't treating the underlying cause. And sometimes she would get patients whose dry eyes had gotten so bad that they would stop driving a car, for example. That could then lead to depression or anxiety from a sense of isolation. And she wanted to change the outcome for these people. So she started talking about dry eye. She started talking about how optometrists and primary care physicians need to be working together, that dry eye is a clue, dry eye is a window into other things that may be going on. She started researching up-to-date treatments on dry eye to try and treat more of the underlying conditions with the oil glands versus just the symptoms, dry eye. Then she went to an optometry conference and she thought, why wouldn't I be on stage? And so she started calling herself the Dry Eye Guide as we went through class. And her stories were quite incredible. These little stories of people's lives changing because, again, they could drive a car, or they had realized they had the beginnings of an autoimmune disorder and dry eyes were a clue. And so she would continue. She would go and she wrote chapters for books. She wrote journal articles. She went on podcasts, and she even posted a bit about her time in the Navy. She posted a bit about how she stays healthy so that she can take care of her full body health, including her own eye health. And now Dr. Lisa Hornick, about 20% of her income comes from these speaking engagements. Now, of course, that was a happy accident of trying to inform more people about dry eye. But why I talk about Lisa and use her as an example is dry eye can kind of feel boring at first, right? I mean, you have dry eyes and you take eye drops. But Lisa saw something that other people didn't see, and she built a whole brand around it. And she did it by taking this approach to show a novel point of view, an interesting point of view, a surprising point of view, or a counterintuitive point of view that hadn't been brought up before. Again, if you read the question, would you treat diabetes with eye drops? You definitely stop your scroll for a second. And so today we're going to talk about the knowledge you already have, like the knowledge Lisa had about dry eye. And then how do you package that knowledge in a way that makes people pay attention so that they're ready and want to learn from you? That's your primary audience, those people you stand to help. For Lisa, it was other optometrists. She wanted to teach other optometrists about her approach. It could be patients. It could be people who stand to just learn something about dry eye that might have dry eye themselves, right? Lisa chose other optometrists because she thought she could serve more people with a business-to-business approach, because all these optometrists have their own dry eye patients. But again, whatever your primary audience is, those are the people you're helping. And then those people are going to have better outcomes. They're going to talk about it, and your credibility and visibility will be boosted. And then your secondary audience is going to be those people that you want to get more of. So I tell my MBA students, those might be the people that give you promotions. Those might also be the people that call you up and say, I need to come see you, right? And sometimes the primary audience and secondary audience can, of course, be the same, but they don't have to be. Okay. So here's what we're going to go over today. First, we're going to talk about how do you define your personal brand. Then we're going to talk about how you package it. Then we're going to talk about how you spread the word online. That's step 3, actually, because there's packaging to do first. That's intent. That's purposeful. We always think social media is the key. It's only part of the equation. And then we're going to talk about how we grow our brands. Okay. So first, we are going to talk about establishing our personal brand. So one thing that we get wrong often in marketing is we mess up our offer and our product. Okay. So we always talk about features versus benefits in marketing, and I like to elevate that to transformation versus information. So when someone comes to Lisa, they want to feel better. That's the transformation they want to make. Some of them, let's even take it to the extreme. They come to Lisa because they want to drive again. Someone with a very bad case of dry eye, right? Whose vision has been affected to the point where they can't drive. That's the transformation they seek. They are comforted by the fact that she is a licensed optometrist. They're comforted by the fact that she's experienced in the area. But what she really offers is that she takes a different approach to treating dry eye. And these are people, right, who really need a different approach because things are getting very bad, right? So your product is not your offer. I always talk about my grandma who just turned 100. Very lucky that she's still with us. And when she was 95, she broke her femur. And she broke her femur vacuuming because she wants to vacuum her house every day and make sure it's clean. And she really wants to remain living independently. And so her kids were very worried about her. And my mother was very beside herself. Okay, she won't go into assisted living. What can we do to help? And so in addition to going in and checking on her and doing all of those things, they wanted her to stop vacuuming every day because that's how she fell and broke her femur. So they bought her a Roomba. They didn't really care about all the little features that made the robot work, right? That was the product. So all those cool things it talked about on the box supported the fact that the offer was this Roomba was going to give my grandma's children, my mother and her siblings, peace of mind. And it was also going to give her the ability to live independently. Okay. So again, what does that audience need from you? And a lot of times we're so proud of our own knowledge or our own products that we kind of fall into the features trap. So think, what is the offer that ideal customer really needs that is in your primary audience? I'm going to use the term ideal customer a lot. That's just someone in your primary audience. What's the transformation that they seek? Think about that. If you have notes in front of you, maybe jot it down. What is the transformation that they seek when they go to find knowledge from someone like you? And then take yourself through their thought process. Okay. So from the perspective of a customer, which a brand is nothing without a customer, right? A personal brand is nothing without an audience or people that want to listen to you. And you only need one, right, to have a brand. But think about, how is your ideal customer feeling right now? How do they want to feel? What counterintuitive, new, or surprising thing do they need to do to get there? Right? So what Lisa says is, I know you have dry eyes, and you don't need to just take more eye drops to get there. In fact, they could be making the condition worse. So you need to go and you need to get tested for these different conditions. And we need to try these different treatments that treat the glands, not the eyes. Okay. And then finally, how will your ideal customer feel when they get there? So by going through these questions, you're answering their problems with your own knowledge, but you're teasing out the transformation versus just giving information. And that's where brands really connect with people. Think about the brands that connect with you the most, right? Liquid Death to plastic. Kids feel cool because they think they're holding a beer can and they can tell their friends about it. Right? And to a kid, an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old kid like mine, feeling cool in the lunchroom means everything, right? What is that thing that they want from you? And again, think about your favorite brand. They do this really well because they show you that they can fulfill your aspirations and give you that transformation. Okay. Now, let's look at this online post to illustrate what I mean by that counterintuitive solution. So this is a post that at first, you think, okay, what do I do different, right? And then you have the same boy, the same things. And I have been for years dealing with two very different types of eaters in my life. My daughter is underweight, slowly catching up. And my son's always struggled with his weight. He's always been a bit overweight. And pediatricians have told me time in and time out, okay, get non-fat milk for him, full fat milk for her, have him get up from the dinner table sooner, have him be distracted, she sits longer to eat, all of this stuff, right? And mealtimes actually became quite a nightmare for my husband and I because we were trying to do different things for both children because we desperately want them to be healthy. And then all of a sudden, this post enters my Instagram feed and it stops me in my tracks because this woman, this dietitian online, is telling me to do the same things. And she went on to say, look, if you try this for a couple days, it's not going to ruin either child, right? But it might help you enjoy meal times again. And oh my God, I don't know what that's like, right? Here I am, a mom of two kids, and maybe with two working parents, you have maybe one great hour a day, and you want that to be around the dinner table, right? Wasn't that what everyone says the American dream is? And I don't know what that feels like, right? So I think, okay, I want that joy. That's my transformation, right? And again, that's her counterintuitive point of view, but backed up by science, right? None of these things that she says in here are things that aren't true. She just presents it in a way like, look, good hygiene, good food hygiene starts with doing these same things for every type of eater. And sure enough, as my husband and I really started concentrating on these 5 things every meal, we started to see a difference. And that tension we took out of mealtime helped as well. So again, what is that counterintuitive solution you can offer? And here's actually a framework to tease it out. So I call it the truth framework. I just made this up to make it easier to remember. But first, what does everybody think? What is a common belief or misconception? What is the real problem or actual issue? What do you understand? And so real problem can also be risk, right? The actual misunderstood problem, right? What do we risk by going with what everybody thinks? So again, everybody thinks that mealtime is hard. The problem is you make it harder by thinking it has to be hard and different if you have 2 different kinds of eaters. Then what is the truth? What do you know to be the better solution or the right perspective? What's the tested reasoning that backs that up? And then how should someone act? And so, caution, I made up this example, but if you were to follow the truth framework and write a post about this image that showed up on my Instagram feed, here's what it could sound like. I wish you knew that despite what you've been told, you don't need to treat overweight and underweight children differently. As a parent, I know how hard it is to be robbed of peaceful family meals while serving non-fat milk and whole milk simultaneously. As a dietitian, I'm upset that you've been led down this path. The truth is, feeding different types of eaters doesn't have to be hard at all, because years of research tells us that it all starts with good food hygiene. If you have different types of eaters in your household, forming healthy habits with meals can make a monumental difference in your kids' health and bring you joy in a place you've never felt it before, at the dinner table. And meals is a framework that we would go on to teach. And I'll get to that later in the presentation when I talk about frameworks. And so if you follow this formula, and the great thing is you have AI these days to help you, but if you follow this formula, that's when you really bring your audience along with you and tease out that counterintuitive point of view. The problem is on the internet, most people say everybody thinks this and I'm really right because I think this, but we don't bring our ideal customer with us because we don't tease out the real problem and what they're doing then, right? You don't remind them that meal times are miserable, that they're being robbed of happy meal times. And so they're not coming along with you because you're not getting in their head. You're not hitting their pain points, which is why those 4 questions are so important. Then with personal brands, we can add a little bit of the personal, right? So this dietitian happens to be a dietitian, which is great. That's part of her product that backs her offer up, but she's also a mom. So it makes her even more relatable to our target audience. Okay. I'm going to share a few more examples with you to drive this concept of counterintuitive points of view home. So Shannon McPartland is in our MBA program, and she is a coroner for Sacramento County. She shared with me when she was in my class that when you're a coroner, at some point you get burned out because identifying dead bodies is hard, right? And it's not a happy job. And she said that what happens when most coroners get burned out is they end up going after what she calls the dateline cases. So they try to solve cold cases to get that rush of adrenaline, like, wow, they actually played a part in solving a crime. And she said it's really uniformly true in the profession, which I had no idea about. Then she went to the Camp Fire, the wildfire in Northern California in 2017, and helped to identify 18 lost bodies to reunite them with their families. She said the satisfaction she felt was undescribable reuniting these families. And so she wants to launch a personal brand teaching other coroners how to identify lost bodies, any lost body, because the satisfaction you get from doing that multiple times could far outweigh the cold case satisfaction that you may never get in your career. What an awesome brand that not only shows her expertise, but helps others. Desiree Garcia Solano is also a former student of mine. And for 10 years, she was an embryologist. And she went on journeys with her patients, right? Like she was working with couples day in, day out that were having a lot of trouble having children. And so when outcomes were good, obviously people were elated, but when the outcomes were bad, it was devastating. And she felt that devastation with her patients. And she started noticing that when embryos are transported, because oftentimes patients will change clinics, either moving physically, location to location. Sometimes they will move country to country. They will want to move embryos because they'll come to the US for part of the treatment and then go back to a home country for another part, or vice versa. Or sometimes they just want to try with another clinic and see what their odds are there, but they don't want to start over creating embryos. And what Desiree started noticing is embryos just travel on FedEx in a freezer. And she said, would you send your baby on FedEx, right? No, you would have a babysitter. And she started a unique transport business where a human travels with the embryos, keeps track of the temperatures, keeps track of that ominous point where the embryo can get too warm and damage, and started educating her patients, like, really be careful and pick the right transport company, because there's hidden dangers before the real danger that you are all worried about, which is, will the implantation work or not? And so not only has she started a transport business for embryos that takes a more personal approach, she's also started a notary company so that couples, you have to have a notarized signature when you transport embryos. And she noticed sometimes couples would miss a cycle of their fertility treatment just because they wouldn't have a notary yet and they need to wait a few days. Sometimes that could miss them a whole month. And she's also now started a surrogacy agency for those people who are not successful with IVF. So this all started with her just wanting to make this experience of infertility better, and noticing that there's so many places along that journey of IVF treatment that patients might not be thinking about that can be ominous, like getting a signature to transport an embryo or the transport itself. Okay. Now, how do we make our brand sticky? In marketing, we say something sticky if we remember it. So I always call this the AEIOUs of personal branding. A is for authority. What qualifies you to help your ideal customer overcome their pain points? So these are things you just know about people immediately because of bios online, degrees and credentials, right? So Lisa Hornick's an optometrist. Jennifer Anderson's a dietitian. E is for expertise. How is your solution to their pain points different than everybody else's? So again, this is your counterintuitive point of view, not to be mixed up with authority. I is for involvement. How can you relate to your ideal customer? This is where the personal comes in. And again, you don't have to be involved personally like Lisa is with Dry Eye to make an impact in this way. You can be like Desiree and just someone who's lived this so many times that you care to make a difference alongside the people that you're trying to help. O is for offer. What transformation will your expertise provide? And then U is for understanding. How will that ideal customer's life change? If you have the U in here, that's a litmus check for all these other parts of personal branding. And so now when we look at the post I wrote on the previous slide, you can see that it has all of these elements, which is what makes it really special and memorable. And I'm going to actually send these slides. When you get the thank you for attending this presentation, I will make sure that I have these slides to staff so that it can be sent out for you. Okay, once you kind of know what you want to do for people, what that transformation is, I always say make a brand statement. I do what for who because. And the because is your counterintuitive point of view, your value position, because then it helps you stay on track. Every time you go to make a thought leadership piece, which we're going to talk about next, you can go back to your brand statement and be reminded of what it is you're trying to help people with. Okay, so I've made example ones for each of these people that I've provided. Now let's talk about packaging our brand. So we all have articles of paperwork that tell us who we are. If anyone tries to steal our identity, we call the police immediately. We're highly threatened. Online, many of us don't own our own URLs. Please buy your name as your URL and you can point it toward your business, right? That's what I do with mine. But we should all own our online real estate, especially since we spend more time a day often online than we do in person. Okay, so we should all own our online real estate. So again, please, if you don't do anything after this presentation, go to GoDaddy or a website site and buy your URL. And then I always encourage people not just to do their work on social media. Social media is rented space. We don't want to be victims of what Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk decide for their companies. And so we want to have a website where not only can we house our thought leadership pieces that we write on a blog section, but we also want to be able to collect leads. We want to be able to collect people in our audiences, emails, or phone numbers, which is actually quite a lot simpler than we might think. And so I have a guide called WordPress 101 that I send out with my slides because WordPress is a very easy website platform to set up yourself. But you might also just outsource it. I mean, a personal brand website can really cost between 2 and 4K quite easily because it's really a simple setup, which I'll show you right now in a moment. And then make yourself a logo. So many of you might already have a logo for your practice and be pointing your website, your personal URL to your business website. If you already have a website, I'm going to encourage you later to add a blog to house your thought leadership pieces and to add email and phone number opt-ins to that website if you don't already have it. If you don't have a website, I encourage you to make a logo that goes along with your personal brand. And canva.com has over 4,000 logo templates, and looka.com is a great AI option to make logos. You answer 4 questions about your company and they give you 5 options. It's great for people who don't want to use a template and create. And as you can see, these are Canva templates right here on this slide. They look very professional. So again, if you don't already have a logo, please do so that you have that for your website. It really elevates your brand. And done is better than perfect. Just launch. We've all had logo changes before, which is why I put Amazon's very ugly first logo up. So if you do make your own logo, send it to me. I want to see. But again, if you already have a logo and you're pointing your website, then you're just going to add a blog to your website section. Speaking of your website, what should you have on your website? If you're creating or if you already have one, first of all, make sure on your homepage you have an about section that leads to your bio, right? And you always should have a blog, okay? A blog section is where you're going to house your thought leadership pieces. It improves your search engine optimization because your website is active. And it also gives people a place to go click and see where all of your information is and find past information. Testimonials are nice to have. A lot of people have testimonials on LinkedIn, on Google, etc., but they don't bring them over to their website. Bring the best ones over to your website. And if they're already yours, you own them, they're on the internet. You can also put a social media scroll attached to your website and case studies or even a resume. But in your case, you'll probably just do thought leadership pieces for a blog. What else should you have on your homepage that's incredibly important? You should have a way for people to sign up to get tips from you on a regular basis. This is where you're going to be emailing or texting people links to your blog posts on a regular basis, those thought leadership posts where you're going to provide value, and that is going to help spread the word about your practice, okay? Then, if you do put your social media links on your blog, please make sure to put them on or your website. Please put them all the way to the bottom. This is a common mistake I see, so I put it in my workshops. We would never in real life get to Safeway and see directions to Save Mart on the top of our page. When people get to your website, that's where you want them to be. That is not rented space like social media, that's owned space. And if you give them enough value, they will want to opt in to your newsletter or your information. So again, leave your social media icons to the bottom of your website or not there at all, okay? All right, you also should have email marketing software to make some of this work. If you don't already have that in a way that people can opt into your website, please look into getting some of these programs. I really like Constant Contact for small businesses. It has great automation capability and the price is right. MailChimp is free, but you get what you pay for. You cannot segment on MailChimp. You also have Salesforce and Ontraport as more robust email and CRM systems. And then texting is starting to really take off, even in service industries like yours. And so there's also texting options that you can route through your website to have people sign up for texts. Finally, frameworks. Frameworks is another way to package your brand professionally. Frameworks are taking steps and just naming them, right? So you see the steps framework over here on the right. This is someone who writes about theories of persuasion, and his the different theories of persuasion that he writes about in one of his books spells out steps with 2 P's. Again, this is how we turn knowledge into intellectual property. This is how we organize our knowledge from a bunch of thoughts into something that our audience can consume. So every time you go to write a thought leadership piece online, and I'm going to encourage you to do that once a week on LinkedIn to start, create a framework out of the steps you're asking people to take or the 3 things you're asking people to remember. And I went ahead and did this with the points that Jennifer Anderson put on her post. I turned it into a meals framework, okay? And I explained everything that she put in her post. I just called it different things so that it fit with the word meals. You saw me do it with this presentation. I called it epic. And then if you put together a post that has an introduction of the truth framework, followed by a framework of your knowledge, that is an amazing thought leadership post. If you're doing this on a regular basis, again, this is the kind of value that I'm asking you to provide to others, okay? So now that we have the big stuff, we have, okay, what do we want your brand to be and how do we position it? And then we have the packaging, what needs to be on your website, and then how do we create these thought leadership pieces? Let's talk about getting it out into the world and growing that in the last 10 minutes here. So first, take those posts that you're making, take the truth framework followed by your teaching framework, and share one of those posts if you can once a week on LinkedIn. And you're just going to share it as a post, again, each week on LinkedIn. After about 3 months of sharing posts, you're going to start seeing which ones rise to the top. What does your audience want the most? And then you can look at your data if you have LinkedIn Premium, and you can start saying, okay, posts that get the highest recognition, I'm going to talk more about those topics. So this gets easier as you go because you get feedback from customers on audience members on these platforms. Okay. So a minimum suggestion to start would be a weekly thought leadership piece once a month on LinkedIn and once a week if you can. Ultimate goal would be a website with a weekly blog. And the best hack is something I call a VAB blog, a video and blog. And you might, again, be cringing when you hear the word video, just like personal brand. But here's what I say to do. The simplest thing you can do once a week is take your phone, buy a cheap little stand. I like products by PhotoPro, FOTOPRO.com from Amazon. I like to get a desktop tripod. I turn the video camera in selfie mode, and I talk to people each week about the framework I want to teach about, okay? I start there. Then I have this face-to-camera video that gives people a little teaser or the whole framework, whatever you feel comfortable with. Then I upload that video into rev.com, and I have it for $1.25 a minute, make a transcript. Then you can have ChatGPT put that into a blog post with you, prompting it with the truth framework and then asking it to create a framework based on the steps you've told, right? And so now all of a sudden you have a written blog post. Then you take that and you put that out over email each week. You can text a link to it each week to the audience that you're collecting from opt-ins on your website. You can put it on YouTube. You'll have to get it on the blog page of your website. Okay. And YouTube gets you passive search engine optimization. And then you can put a snippet of the post on all of the socials that you're on. Okay. And I recommend beyond LinkedIn, I recommend you're going to naturally be on YouTube. I recommend Meta, Facebook and Instagram. We know year after year, survey after survey, that most people are on one of those two platforms. And then other platforms like TikTok, Pinterest, etc. Those are optional if you have time. X and Blue Sky can really build expertise. Again, optional if you have time. But the big ones are get that video up on YouTube, embed it into the blog page of your website, put a written transcript, send a link to that via email and text each week to the audience that you have, and then grow your audience by posting it on social media. And there you'll naturally gain followers that see your value, and they will go, you can feed them to your website to opt in. Okay. More on that in a moment. All right, so nice to have. Again, I would recommend Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's really cool because once you see what people are really looking at the most, you can post an article instead of a post. An article is like, if you go to post something, you'll see an option that says article in red. So if you've ever wondered how people send those newsletter type things to their whole audience on LinkedIn, they're posting articles, they're publishing articles. Only 2% of LinkedIn users use that feature, so it really makes you stand out. Okay, so here's a slide that summarizes what I just said about choosing social media. And then you can start to grow to a little more than once a week once you get really good at this funnel. And it sounds ominous at first, but you would be surprised at how good you get at taking these little videos quickly, or even writing the little snippets. Skip the video at first if you need to, and just put pictures of you treating patients or people in your practice, or stock photos even, with those weekly thought leadership pieces. Again, whatever it takes to get you started. A really good trick to doing videos, though, is to memorize your first sentence and practice it so many times that you're sick of it and you know it cold. And usually the rest of the video just flows out. If you're still having trouble, practice everything you're going to say in the mirror for 5 minutes. Set a timer. Do not leave the mirror for 5 minutes. You will be so sick of yourself that you will take the personal out of it and just put that thought leadership video out there. I promise. Okay, how do we make more posts? Well, we can create a marketing calendar. So I take an Excel sheet, and 12 weeks in advance, each week I say, here's the thought leadership post I'm going to make. And then you can break down little pieces of it. So you can say, okay, on Tuesday, we talked about 3 steps to have better heart health as you age. Let's break down step 1 today. Step 2 tomorrow, step 3 the next day. Now you have almost a whole week of posts. Okay. So again, break down your topics, recycle your content. You know that you just posted a whole blog on it on Tuesday, but not everyone in your audience saw that on Tuesday. And remember, the shelf life on the internet is not linear, it's circular. So people are coming in and out of your knowledge. So it's a chance for you to link back to your website. Then people go to your website to look at the whole blog because they're just getting one step in a post. And all of a sudden they're opting in because what you have to say is so valuable. And you have this owned audience right there that then you can start giving updates about your practice and your business with as well. So it all works together. And again, you can do this with your business by just adding this thought leadership each week if you already have this whole website funnel set up. Okay. So you're going to be focused on the value educational posts, but personal is also a really good thing to pepper in every once in a while. So I always say 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you want to provide knowledge, but 20% of the time, share something personal. Take people behind the scenes, show your staff, etc. Ask people a question. This is so powerful. We naturally pause when we see a question mark as humans when we're scrolling, right? Because we go to think. And then we also get agency created, right? So instead of saying 3 steps to better heart health as you age, what if you ask people, why do you care about better heart health as you age? All of a sudden, then they take agency over needing to read what you have to say, and their connection with you is stronger. So I love this, asking a question. You could just ask a question one day, see what people respond with. That also increases your engagement, and algorithms on social media know you more. And then fun pop culture. So Pi Day is kind of cool, but just we can keep those to a minimum because we're so good at our value posts. We don't really need internet holiday fillers. Learn from other people too. Follow 3 people at least in your industry. And every time they make a post that you like, paste it on a spreadsheet and then copy it with your own twist. Okay. This is how all the best innovations happened, right? I mean, how was penicillin discovered? Not by the last guy that was given credit, right? You know this in your industry more than anyone else that all of these great innovations build on each other. So build on other people's great marketing. Use prompts. I've given you some great prompts that make it really hard not to start out writing in an interesting way. You can feed those to AI or you can draft yourself. I'm one of those dinosaurs that still like writing my own drafts and then putting it in AI. My favorite prompt is I remember or we remember. Here's some headline ideas that are rooted in theories of persuasion. I have a book recommendation, Contagious by Jonah Berger. It's about what makes information spread online. It's a really interesting read. And I stole some of my favorite theories of persuasion and headlines to go along with it for you. And don't forget, use analytics so that your content gets more and more pertinent to what your audience has to say. And then if you make a social media post and you're like, I don't have a picture and I'm not ready to get on video yet, you can make a template on Canva. Same thing I told you about logos, canva.com, and you can get a background and just put a teaser quote on there. And if you're really brazen, you can put your picture like Michael Hyatt does. But that, I know that's hard. That's hard. Got to start where you want to start. I am giving you some advice for prompt engineering if you do use ChatGPT or Cloud, CLAUDE. I like that better for writing. Here's some prompt engineering tips to make the outputs more creative and avoid brain drain. Additional content tips as you're creating these thought leadership pieces, get rid of the plastic. Anytime a word has more than 2 meanings, ask AI to replace that word with a word that only has 1 meaning. You will be shocked at how much better you sound. Get rid of jargon. I once did a presentation back in December to a cardiovascular symposium. And I said, let's break down what is this dependent signaling here? Explain to me what it is. Explain it to grandma, right? Again, really engage people with words they understand. Social proof is great. So testimonials are great. But when you're talking about something, when you're teaching something, or even providing a testimonial, instead of saying the patient had a good experience, the patient has a good experience when we do this, right? That brings people along with you. Instead of reading about something in the past that's already happened, they're in the story with you. It makes a huge difference. It's been researched over and over again. Every time you make a post, put "I want" in front of what you're about to talk about and see if it fits with that brand statement you made in the beginning. And again, ask questions. It promotes agency. Like I said a minute ago, would you treat diabetes with eye drops? And then finally, how do you grow your brand? So like Lisa, what if this starts going for you in a way that you want to do more of it and maybe even get paid for it? I don't have time to do a lot of monetization in 1 hour. Definitely not as much as I do over a 20-hour class. But one thing I want to provide to you is this resource called Source of Sources. You can sign up for it at the website that I gave you, and you can go sourceofsources.com is the website right here. And what it is every day, twice a day, you will get sent an email of what journalists are looking for. This flips PR on its head, public relations on its head. We usually go pitch to journalists. I spend a lot of time with my clients trying to get them earned media, right? Now journalists are asking you. So if journalist is saying, like today, I'm writing an article about the heart and aging, for example, you can say, hey, I have knowledge on that, right? And you can sign up to these emails for free. Okay. I know the guy who started this, he's really well known in the communications industry. He's wonderful. And I think it's a great idea. I've gotten my clients in many a publication from it. Other podcasts, blogs, or speaking. Remember, you have your own blog. You can feature other people and you can ask to be on other people's blogs as well. It's a great way to expand your audience and get noticed by other people. You can pitch to the media as well. Use the truth framework that is very compelling. It always teases out that counterintuitive point of view. That's what the media likes. They like those new point of views. And start with a little tiny paper, like a local paper. So when I did this presentation for that cardiovascular symposium, I said, start with things like the Aggie paper at the UC Davis University, right? Or your university paper to that audience. For you guys, start with your hometown papers. Then you get a media link. Google recognizes that as more important than other links, and you can turn around and use it and then go pitch bigger types of media, right? And you climb the ladder from there. And then finally, the very last thing I'm going to teach you is sometimes people like to put money behind the posts that they make online. And just remember when you advertise that marketing is all about knowing first, then liking, and then trusting. The internet is the only place where we take a cold audience and we say, buy right now, 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 now. We never have someone walk into a store and have a pair of jeans in our hand. And as the clerk walk up with a big yellow piece of paper with black writing that says, buy now. We have them try it on. We talk to them about the jeans, right? We warm them up so that they can get to the point of trusting enough to buy. Okay. So what I like to do again is I like to, when I go to run ads, you're going to be putting out all this content anyway. What I like to say is, okay, anyone who's ever engaged with the post or watched one of my videos in the last 365 days, or you can bind it to more recent time, and you can do this on every social media platform. I ask them to put it in a custom audience. Then I pay money to the social media platform to say, could you ask all of these people, I'm going to make this ad asking people to opt in. Okay. Could you send it to all these people in my custom audience? Now you're asking warm leads simply to opt into your email. This happens organically anyway, right? Email or text. This happens organically anyway, right? I've already told you the importance of that. But in marketing, things are either slow and cheap or fast and expensive. So if you want to speed up your audience building, that's how we do it. That's how the pros do it, right? But again, you want to do it with a custom audience versus a cold audience. Most marketers do this with a cold audience and they forget that middle like phase. Okay. And I don't want you to just keep up with the market. I want you to beat it. So I wanted to make that point if you ever do monetize an ad to grow your audience faster. Okay. One other thing, people aren't clicking and opting in anymore like they used to. We're entering the age of zero-click marketing thanks to AI snippets from Google. People don't have to go and look for things as much anymore or click. Also, thanks to Instagram stories, TikTok reels, etc., we tend to scroll for entertainment on social media versus click away. So what should you do in that case? Instead of saying click here to opt into my newsletter after you make a fancy post, say screenshot this and come back to it and go to whatever.com to opt in when you're ready. Then on your phone, the first picture they have is that picture of the post reminding them to opt in to get your newsletter. You're in the most personal space they have, right? Their phone, their photo roll. Here's some examples of regular people. These happen to be from Instagram that have grown. So you have a cardiologist here that gives advice on the heart health. You have an epidemiologist who became rather internet famous during COVID, breaking down all of the precautions and helping people protect themselves. Here's Lisa Hornick. And then you have a neurologist as well, giving advice on how to keep your brain sharp. Again, this doesn't have to start big either. So everybody started with one follower. And I always tell people, if you're self-conscious about having only a few followers at first, be happy, because your, sister, husband, wife, and best friend, they'll be easy on you as they give you advice, and you can make mistakes in public and they'll forgive you, right? So as you get better and your audience gets bigger, it's a natural progression. Okay. Parting thoughts: done is better than perfect. Launch, grow from there. No brand started as they'll finish. So if you're worried that this isn't totally representative, or that what if you change your mind and want to do this, that, or the other, just keep going. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And remember, your brand's not really about you. It's about the people you're helping. And I know that helps me when I go out to put my personal stuff. I cringe whenever I have my bio out there to be introduced. But honestly, again, it's about the people that you're going to help. So don't think of it as self-promotion, right? And remember, your product is not your offer. So instead of thinking, oh, I don't know if I should do this or not, write down right now, what will you do next to create your personal brand? Maybe it's buying your URL. What will you do next? And then finally, here's the Dunning-Kruger effect. The internet is a scary place. And whenever we do a new thing, it's easy to be nervous. But whenever we do a new thing, we also, when we see initial success, we gain a lot of confidence. So if you go out there and make that first LinkedIn post with your thought leadership, which I hope you do, and you're gonna get some really good comments and likes, right? And so you're gonna be a beginner at it, but you're gonna have high confidence. This happens to most businesses, right? Then you're gonna keep doing it. And at an inevitable point, it's gonna kind of be like, okay, why isn't this working faster? Why didn't someone comment on this? And you're going to have a confidence drop. And in entrepreneurship, we call this the valley of despair, or the valley of death. I like calling it the valley of despair. The point is, when you're in the middle of the U, know that around the corner, your confidence will start to increase, right? As your confidence increases. And once you kind of exit that valley of despair, not only do you have confidence, but you have competence. So expect to feel a little defeated in the process, but know that that's just your own confidence and this artificial effect going on because you're trying a new thing. Okay. So go out there, make the world better in your own way, do your own version of Death to Plastic, and tell me about it. Email me your ideas, ask me advice, anything I can do to help you. This truly is my life's work and goal. In fact, I have a book coming out on this called The Same Thing, Visible, Valuable, in a year, to bring personal branding back to that thought leadership to help the world that it once was. So thank you very much. And it looks like we went right up against time, but I can't stay on a few extra minutes for questions if you would like me to.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vanessa. That was great. I think this is one topic that I have spoken to a lot of physicians about that they were very interested in. So thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat and I can address those for you to Vanessa. Otherwise, let's see here. Or let me see. Let me see if we get any questions, and then if not, I will be sure to send out your deck and any other information that you have for our attendees in an email later today.
Okay.
So the attendees all have the resources that they need.
Okay.
So it looks like we didn't have any questions.
Oh, did that black box go away?
The black box eventually, well, it was there the whole time. It only really messed with one slide, but afterwards either it was above or below it. So, and I didn't want to stop the flow.
Oh, strange.
But,
Okay.
yeah,
Sorry about that,
but
everybody.
you're good. No worries. Okay, well, thank you so much, Vanessa. To our attendees, thank you for joining us today. Please be on the lookout for the next webinar we'll be hosting in July. I should have the registration starting in about a week or so. Okay. All right. Thank
Great.
you. Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.